right, legends! Rufus here. And I'm going to read you another chapter of my book, The Pocket Watch of Doom. Yeah! Chapter 18, in which Star and Hazel meet Ned Spindle. The pixie Star had performed a jinx. When we say that we've jinxed something, we tend to mean that we've brought bad luck on ourselves, which is also true of a fairy jinx. A fairy jinx brings bad luck on purpose and can be used very effectively as a distraction. Star had jinxed them so that they would be found and captured. This way he could take them deep into the enemy's lair and take attention away from the bubblegum troll that was sneaking through the trees, up through the sewage system, and into the old school for posh kids. Star continued smirking, much to the annoyance of Ned Spindle's secret police and Hazel, who still had no idea what was going on. They were taken into the deep, dark depths of the school building. Many centuries ago, the building used to be a castle, and as everyone knows, you can't have a castle without a dungeon. This particular dungeon wasn't like the slimy stone awfulness of the dungeon on the planet of the trickster demons, though. No, this dungeon had long been turned into a plush, comfy lounge room that some of the teachers used as a retreat. There was even a spa bath. So when Hazel and Star were tossed violently into the pit of the building, they didn't land on hard, cold stone, but instead landed on soft, giant cushions. They were searched thoroughly, and the satchels were taken from them. "The master will deal with you soon," said one of the guards gruffly. Then the huge, heavy oak door slammed shut, and they heard the sound of a large iron bolt locking them in. "Well, this isn't too bad," said Star jovially. "Well, no, but correct me if I'm wrong. Haven't we just been captured and thrown in jail and our satchels taken away?" Hazel asked grumpily. "Yes, technically, we've been captured and put in jail, but it's all part of the plan, and besides," Star relaxed back into a giant comfy cushion, "what a fine jail it is. I don't suppose you'd mind telling me about the plan. I mean, it's getting a bit frustrating having all these things happen and having no idea what's going on. You're supposed to talk to me about these things, you know." She was angry. Star could tell, because her hand was on her hip again. Star felt a bit guilty. "I'm sorry, it's just that I've worked on my own for so long I just sort of do things. I've never had to explain myself before. Perhaps now's the time to start?" Hazel grunted at him. Star went on to tell her about the jinx and the plan. Fandango rustled through the undergrowth. He'd managed to get very good at controlling his emotions. He could become so calm that he actually shrank smaller than he'd ever done before. He was no longer head height with Star and Hazel, but roughly the size of an uptight baby wombat. This made it a little difficult to carry his satchel, but he made do. He dived into a bush as he heard the four-wheel-drive vehicles and jetpacks heading back to the castle, and was suddenly aware of just how pink he was. He'd be very easy to see among all the green and brown, like a fluorescent felt pen in a drawer full of brown pencils. He needed some camouflage. Off in the distance he heard a babbling stream. He followed the sound and, approaching the stream, eyed around for a good puddle of thick mud. It didn't take long till he was covered in sticky brown goo and was nearly invisible against the forest. On he went, just as Star had instructed him, until he found the entrance to the sewer. It was a big round hole in the ground covered by a metal grate. He yanked up the grate with all his might and climbed down the iron ladders to the horrible stench below. Luckily, the sewer had a raised pathway above the river of poo, so he didn't have to wade through the filth. He was on his way, deep under the school building. He didn't really know where he was going or what he was supposed to do, but had faith in Star's motto, "Roll with the punches as they always knock you in the right direction." "So," Hazel's hand was still on her hip, and she was glaring at Star. "Your plan is basically to get captured, point Fandango at her sewer, and then hope for the best. You still don't have faith in the motto, do you? After all we've been through." Star was a little cross too now. Motto? Motto? That silly roll with the punches thing you're always going on about? What nonsense! It's just an excuse to do whatever you want, whenever you want, and hope things turn out okay. Utter nonsense. Hazel was spitting with anger. How did you stop the man with the gun? On the tree munching machine? Star asked, his voice raised now. What? She spat. How did you stop the man with the gun on that big forest munching thing? He repeated, even louder and more slowly. What has that got to do with anything? Hazel was confused, which was better than angry. Her hand was still on her hip, though, which meant that Star wasn't out of danger quite yet. Just answer me, for crying out loud. Well, she thought, I used the bubble gun. Yeah, but before that, how did he fall over and drop his gun? Star's voice was slightly calmer. Tied his shoelaces together, she muttered. Her hand was off her hip now, and she was beginning to listen to him. Exactly. Why did you think to do that? She scratched her chin, wondering where he was going with this. From the trickster demons. Precisely. If we hadn't gone to that world, if you hadn't been captured, if they hadn't tortured you, then you'd be dead right now. You see? Oh. Hazel's eyebrows raised slightly. And that is just one of the tricks they played. Think about the dozens of others you can pull out of your hat when you need to. You were there for weeks. You learned loads of stuff from those horrible crackling little gits. He continued. You see, it's not about what we go through during all of this. It's about how we learn from it all. The bad stuff happens for a reason, Hazel. It's just about finding the reasons that work best for you. So when I say roll with the punches because they always knock you in the right direction, it's a kind of mantra. It's a way to help you to find the best in everything. You see? I think so. It's been working for me and my kind for thousands of years. It's how we stay so chipper. Star grinned a giant cheeky grin, and Hazel couldn't help but do the same for a moment. But how is any of that going to help us now? You weren't the only one to learn some tricks along the way, said Star. Fandango's learnt a few things too, you know. He might be scared and alone, but he's learnt that he can do a lot more than just run around getting stuff stuck to him. Trust me, Hazel, our boy won't let us down. Just then they heard the huge metal bolt of the door clunk open. The door creaked and some large, burly-looking security agents stood in the doorway behind a small, snivelling little man. The little man looked sneaky and mean. The master will see you now, he said, and they were guided out of the dungeon, up the winding stone stairs, through a number of corridors, into a huge hall. The room was decorated with long banners that reached to the high ceiling. On every one of them had been embroidered the image of a man holding a pocket watch. Star and Hazel's eyes lit up at the sight. Hazel still couldn't understand how they were going to retrieve it, but felt a great deal better about rolling with the punches than she had before. She reached out and squeezed Star's hand gently. Star turned to her and smiled a warm and confident smile. They were taken to the towering ark at the top of the hall, where a huge throne sat. On the throne, holding the two satchels and glowering at them with red, angry eyes, was the man pictured on the banners. Hazel had never seen anyone so terrifying in her life. He seemed huge. If she thought about it, he wasn't really as tall as he felt. Something about him made him seem like a giant of a man without actually being a giant, and the look in his eyes was pure malice. He wanted to cause harm. Hazel and Star shivered slightly under his terrible gaze and held hands a little tighter. They were forced to their knees in front of him with a thump. "Fairy satchels," he said, holding up their bags. His voice rumbled like thunder off in the distance. They sensed an approaching storm inside him. Hazel was surprised that this human would know that fairies and pixies even existed, let alone knowing that they carried magical satchels. "I'd have to admit that I didn't believe that fairies existed when I was told." His dark voice rolled over the hall, and as it did so, his hands went to the pocket in his waistcoat. "You look surprised.
that I knew you would be coming,"
he boomed.
"but I have my ways."
He grinned a terrible and threatening grin as his hand patted the pocket again. Star realised that the pocket watch of doom must be in that very pocket, only metres away from them. He felt a surge of hope at knowing that they were so close. "You have no idea what you've got there?" He nodded to the man's hand patting the place where the pocket watch rested. "Ned Spindle, is it?" Ned was taken aback.
"How do you know that name? I am the Master."
The storm in his voice was very close now, and the banners in the hall shook slightly with the power of it. "Oh, you silly man," Star said breezily. He was teasing him, taunting him, trying to make him angry. "You're not the master. You're the slave. You're nothing but a pawn to the watch, an easily controlled, weak-minded fool."
"How dare you!"
Ned Spindle's voice made the very stones of the halls shudder. The dozens of huge, muscle-covered security agents took a few steps back. They'd never seen the master look so utterly terrifying.
"You will learn to love me. You will learn that no one defies me, that I am all-powerful. I am the Master, and you will fear me."
His voice hissed, yet grumbled with far-off thunder once more. "I'd sooner lick the snot off a Trickster Demon's castle," Star smirked.
"You will fear me."
Ned Spindle thundered down the steps from the throne with frightening speed. Hazel fell backwards from the force of his monstrous voice, hitting her head on the cold stone floor, opening a cut above her eye. Blood dripped down, blocking her vision. She wiped it away to see Ned Spindle, huge and horrifying, grabbing Star by the throat and lifting him off the floor. He held him high up in the air. Star couldn't breathe. Gasping and spluttering, he just hung there. Hazel was surprised that he wasn't putting up a fight. Why wasn't he fighting? All he had to do was open his wings and shoot bolts of light into this demonic human and he'd be free. Hazel went to get up to help, but Star put his hand out to stop her. He shook his head slightly.
"Yes, that's right, girl. Stay down there where you belong."
Ned Spindle's voice rumbled. Ned pulled the pocket watch of doom out of his waistcoat and said through a fierce grin,
"You will fear me."
He held out the watch and swung it back and forth.
"Keep your eyes on the watch, little pixie. I'll teach you to mock me and my power."
"No!" yelped Hazel helplessly. And that's when the stone floor exploded. Whoa! I'm quite enjoying that. That was quite fun. Oh, I had to really pull it out with Ned Spindle's voice there. Holy cow. But yes, wow, thank you so much for coming along and listening to that. I hope you're enjoying this book. I'm actually really enjoying it. Yeah, I wrote this a long time ago, so it's kind of a new thing for me. I'm experiencing this again. So, that was chapter 18. This book has 20 chapters. Yeah, so we're nearly at the end. But fear not, good people, ladles and jelly spoons, because I've got another book that I'm going to read after this. So season 2 will be Cowardly Frank. While I record that season, I'm going to be writing another book. And I'll also be doing lots and lots of illustrations. I'm posting me doing the illustrations across all the different socials and whatnot. Go to my website, rufuscribbles.com, buy this book by Cowardly Frank. And soon you'll be able to buy The Coins of Crisis, which is the next book in the Shine series. Thanks again for coming along. Love you loads. Legends! Yeah!